So this is the next portion of Unit 5. So we're going to understand the HEX workshop here. Actually, there are different softwares which help in analyzing the disk. So there is something called Norton Disk Editor and WinHex or X Workshop. Okay, so let's see the following steps. How the disk operating system is determined using a HEX workshop. So first you install the HEX workshop and then you insert your USB drive, or if you have an external hard disk, you can do it. Why we are doing that? Because we are going to get some data from the file systems. So we need to save those data somewhere. So we need a USB drive or a hard disk. Next, we're going to start the HEX workshop and you run it as an administrator. So next to the HEX workshop, what you do is you click on to the disk. The disk opens the drive and you can select the corresponding drive which you need to analyze. For example, you can check on the C drive and then you can give OK. Now, once you click the disk, the drive opens again. Then for the next time, it will open the drive drop down list. From that list, you can see your USB drive. So this information is linked to the USB drive. Once it is done, you can leave the HEX workshop and you can open it for the next activity. So this is a general process of how HEX workshop works. If you see this diagram, even if you don't understand the contents, if you see this diagram, you can clearly see that there is a HEX workshop, the top. If you are able to see the arrow that I'm pointing, it says drive C, and some sectors are given here. So this is this is the first step. For example, they have taken the drive C. From here, what they are doing, here, if you are able to see the first line in the display, which says r.ntfs. So here in the C drive, it shows the NTFS. What is NTFS? It is nothing but the network file system. Whether the partition is formatted in the NTFS drive or not. That is the concern they are showing here in the example. Suppose if it is a FAT drive, it will display some values like MS-DOS 5.0 or MS Win 4.1, whatever it is, it will display it in the first logical sector. So this is about a HEX workshop, and it remains the same for most of the other softwares also, with support identifying the file systems. So once when you're free after the class or in the evening, you can just try to see how this HEX workshop works. Okay, now let's go on to the next one, which is nothing but examining a FAT disk. So first, what is FAT? FAT is nothing but it's a file allocation table. And it is a method of keeping track of all the contents of a hard drive. and it was early introduced by the Microsoft operating system in 1977. So how this FAT system works, or the file system works. So in general, file system, it will control how the data is stored. Without a file system, data placed in a storage medium would be like one large body of data, and you will not be able to identify the data, as it will be like one whole. So that is why this FAT allocation table was being structured. Okay, so what are the things that will contain in a FAT is nothing but file names, directory names, date, timestamps, cluster numbers, which we saw in last class, some file attributes. And often PCs use FAT to organize the files on a disk so that the operating system can find the required files. So generally, there are 4 types of file allocation table. So the first one is FAT12. So the FAT12 is the file system on a floppy disk. The number 12 is derived from the fact that the FAT consists of 12-bit entries. The storage space on a floppy disk is divided into units called sectors. In larger storage devices, generally there's a bunch of sectors which form a cluster. So that is the background of FAT12. So generally it is for floppy disk. So it has only limited amount of storage space. Now the next is FAT16. Okay. So just as the name implies, it is important for the use of hard disk, and it handles larger disk. And if FAT is lost, the data on the hard disk cannot be used because it is unable to be located. So in FAT16, it generally uses to handle large disk, but in case if the data is lost, you will not be able to locate it. That was a drawback in FAT16. And the maximum storage capacity is 2 GB. So when we go to FAT32, the access increases up to 2 TB of disk storage. But let's see the difference between FAT16 and 32 now. So generally, FAT32 allows 4 million allocation units per volume. And it allows the root directory to keep growing, whereas FAT16 holds only 512 entries. So that is the main difference between FAT16 and 32. So FAT16 holds a maximum of 512 entries, whereas FAT32 allows 4 million allocation units per volume. Now what is this FATX? FATX is nothing but it's generally used in the Xbox media, and it can be used by any Windows system. It can also be sometimes called as XTAF, XTAF. That is another name of FATX. So this diagram talks about the different drive size and the sectors that are allocated per cluster, and the FAT16 or whatever you can categorizes based on the sectors and based on the drive size. Okay, so this is with regard to FAT allocation table. Now next, We're going to see the example, see the figure. And just see the figure for just 1 minute. Then we will go and analyze the example. This is an example of how the files are being allocated. So in this diagram, you're able to see that there are 64 sectors. And yesterday's class, I told you that each sector has 512 bytes. So 64 into 512 bytes, which is nothing but 32,768 bytes is the total number of bytes that is allocated for this particular cluster. And here EOF is end of file. There is a RAM slack which is allocated at 120 bytes. Okay. Now let me tell the example and then we will come back to the diagram. You'll understand it better. So we're going to see an example where you create a text document which contains 5,000 characters. Okay, that is 5,000 bytes of data. Suppose if you save this file in FAT16, okay, around 1.6 GB disk, generally it will assign one cluster for it automatically. Operating system will calculate 64 into 512. That is what we saw in this diagram, 64 into 512 for the entire 1.6 GB of data. Now, if you see, there is some left out space, which says 27,000 bytes. Are you able to see? There is some left out space here, which says that there is 27 bytes of file slack. Always slack means unused space. How they are able to say this? Suppose the 5,000 bytes that we need to use for the text document uses only 10 sectors. So what happens? There will be 5,120 bytes allocated for the 5,000 byte text. So there will be a balance of 120 bytes which are not used. So that will be called as void and that will be placed with a slack. So that is what in this diagram, they have allocated 10 sectors initially. This is the end of 10th sector. And for 10 sectors, the allocated bytes is 5,120 bytes. But we are using only 5,000 bytes for our text document. So this is the end of the file. From this end of the file up to the 10 sector, there is a free space, unused space of 120 bytes. Now, this is where your slack can be used. And generally, they call a RAM slack. So what will be in the RAM? Inside the RAM slack, you can keep anything like file fragments, deleted emails, passwords, login IDs, whatever you want, you can save it in the unused space. Yeah, so this is about how you can use the RAM slack while creating a FAT disk. So I'll repeat this again. This is an example of how you allocate a FAT. So we are going to consider an example where we are going to create a text document of 5,000 characters. Okay. And we are using the FAT16 as it is a larger disk, maybe 1.6 GB disk it can use. So generally the OS automatically allocates 32,000 bytes. How it does is 64 into 512 bytes. Okay, it assumes 64 sectors for a particular cluster. So that cluster has total number of bytes, which is 32,768, out of which we are going to use only 5,000 bytes to save our text document. The remaining are free. So initially what happens, the 5,000 byte text document uses only 10 sectors. So 512 is for one sector. So for 10 sectors, it will be 5,120, out of which 5,000 we are using it to write the text document. And so we have a balance of 120 bytes left here. Here we will be using our RAM slack. One more thing is there are 32,768 bytes, out of which we have used only a little portion for our text document. So the remaining 27,648 bytes are unused. So that can also be used as a file slack. So a lot of unused spaces are available. And these unused spaces are the ones which the forensic experts try to analyze, because technical people who are very sound, they try to hide the data in these areas. That is why we are studying in detail about the RAM slack and the file slack. We are concerned more in forensic to understand how to identify the slack spaces, the unused spaces, because our motivation is to identify that space and try to get the data from there. So now we'll see on how to delete the FAT files. When you use a MS-DOS delete command, generally you get a hexadecimal E file, which many hex editing programs reflect, and they do it by a symbol called sigma. This sigma symbol tells the operating system that the file is no longer needed and a new file can be added to the cluster. So to delete, generally the Windows uses a DOS delete command, and it is signified by the letter sigma. So whenever the sigma symbol is seen, the OS automatically understands that the file is no longer needed and a new file can be written over in that place. So what happens generally when a file is deleted? It replaces the first letter of the file name, and also the FAT allocation table chain is set up to 0, indicating that there is no file there. However, sometimes the data tries to reside in the disk drive for a certain period of time. The area of the disk where the deleted file resides, it's generally called as free disk space or unallocated disk space. Okay, so this is with regard to FAT files. Okay, so just I'll give a small run through of what we took today. Yeah. So we just saw how X Workshop can be installed and how you can run. So you need to have a USB drive to connect your data to it, to the Hex Workshop, so that whatever you download from the Hex Workshop, you analyze your drives, you can save it all inside your USB or hard disk or whatever it is. So the process we saw, how you click onto it and how you go into the drive and how you link the drive with your USB hard drive. Okay, this is an example of how it symbolizes a Hex Workshop and a C drive is inbuilt. So then we went on to FAT. We saw that FAT is also a structure, file structure in database. Generally, it has the file names, directory names, date, time, etc. And the 4 versions we saw: FAT12, FAT16, 32, and FATX. So FAT12 is generally for limited amount of storage. FAT16 is to handle a little larger disk with a storage capacity of 2 GB. 32, a little more, around 2 TB. And FATX is generally for the Xbox media. You know what is a Xbox? A lot of Xbox games are also there nowadays. So you must be knowing what is an Xbox. So it requires large amount of storage. So FATX file system is used there. Then the table represents the different cluster sizes that can be assigned. You can see this diagram later. And this is the explanation for the example that we have taken. I've explained it already twice, so I'm just moving on. deleting, and we're going to the next topic, which is called Windows Registry. So Windows Registry is generally in any Windows 95 or any Windows, you have a basic initialization of files that is done into the registry. Okay, so it has an initialization of files that can be done into registry. And it is also has a database that stores hardware and what are the network connections that are associated with the system and what are the usernames, passwords. So all these kind of information will be there in any Windows. And the registry will be kept on updating. And we have updated registry even now until Windows Vista and the latest versions also. So why we are going to study about Windows Registry is the registry contains large amount of valuable evidence. That is why we are also talking here about Windows Registry. So initially we talked about file systems because large amount of data can be saved in unused file system spaces. The next we are going to start about Windows Registry because that is also going to contain valuable evidence. So when you want to view a registry, you can use it by two main editors. Like one is registry editor, which is generally for Windows 9X, and registry editor 32 for Windows 2000 XP and Vista. You can browse for more registry entries editor and for your current software, whatever you're using, Windows. Suppose you're using Windows XP, you can use this command registry editor 32 to understand the registry in your computer. So it is dependent upon the operating system that we are using. So in general, what a registry will have is it will have an edit option and it will have some menu options where you can trace and find, locate files and do a lot of trace evidence. Like when the person was logged onto the computer, what was his account information and what are the, other operating systems that he has accessed, whether he has accessed the networks, what are the different type of networks he has accessed. Lot of live data also you can analyze, but you must be very careful that you should never alter the registry settings. So there are certain terminologies in registry. So what is registry first? It's a collection of files. Okay. Those files are useful for the forensic analyst because it will contain user information as well as system information. Then you have registry editor, which I have already said. It is independent of about the operating system. And then the next you have is the third point is the H key. So what is H key? It's nothing but it's a handle used in the registry. So you have a key and the key contains folders and the folders will contain values. Okay. So generally every registry will have a key that will be referring to folders and the folders will contain many values. So to handle those keys, you have this H key. That is the idea behind H key. Okay. It's a handle for the key. Now the key has a lot of subkeys, I said. So what is a subkey? A key displayed another key is a subkey. So you'll have a primary key and there will be secondary and tertiary keys. So the secondary and tertiary ones are called the subkeys. It is just like folders and subfolders in Windows generally. Then you have something called branch. What is branch is nothing but the same, whatever the key is having, all its contents, the subkeys and its contents. So when you take it as a whole with the values, then it is called as branch. And you know what is a value? It is the data and default values are also available here. So I'll just repeat the general registry terms. First is registry which is nothing but a collection of files which has system and user information. Then you have a registry editor, which is independent of different operating systems. Then we'll go on to key first, then we'll come back to HKey. Key is nothing but it will store all the folders and values, everything. It's a reference to the folder. You can call it in that way. And handle is HKey. HKey is nothing but the handle to that key. How you access that key? You need some pointer method to access the key. So here we use HKey as a handle. So that HKey can be, that is also independent upon the operating system. For example, Windows 2000 has 5. Okay. So we have another few minutes for the class to get over, because I think the time limit is going to end in another 5 minutes. So I'm just closing up for the day. We will continue tomorrow, but just stay on the meeting until I end the meeting, because we need to mark your attendance. Okay.